I think Trump's for the people who just never stopped using racial slurs. The people found it fit to own slaves. The people who are just born and bred to hate. And that's the scary part to me, is how normalized hating one another for nothing has become. I know it's always been here, it's always been a thing, but now the president's doing it, so now everyone else is doing it because they follow that same guy. And if they're not hating you for your race, they're hating you because you're a liberal. They're hating you because you're woke. They're hating you because you have opinions. Or they're hating you because you're trans. Or they're because you're gay. And for what? That's all I ask. For what? I know why. Because a whole bunch of white boys found it fit to blame everybody for their freaking problems, their woes, the reason they didn't get into college, the reason they didn't get the job, the reason they didn't get the raise. It's all because of DEI. Oh, God, whatever will I do? And to anyone who has a true spiritual connection to oneself and the universe and how things operate and how the ebb and flow of life, you realize it doesn't fucking matter. So what's the use in hating? Why not try accepting more?
This is Ecclesiastes chapter 14 and verse 5. And it reads, "He that is evil to himself, to whom will he be good? He shall not take pleasure in his goods." I want to start off by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Lakar Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who are the elders of Yasher Allah, and the sincere salutations to all Yuakim, who are preaching this word and believing this word, and to the Aquat, who are believing this word, in all truth and in sincerity. All right, I want to go into a lesson based on the clip that you just saw, of what appears to be an Edomite, basically pointing out the obvious, which is the classism between Edomites, all right? For those who don't know, Edomites are the self-proclaimed or so-called white man as he's known today. All right, I want to go into a lesson on this through the Spirit because it highlights very biblical points. He that is evil to himself, to whom will he be good? Meaning if he doesn't have compassion for his own people, the chance of him having compassion on you is little to none, all right? And that's completely opposite of what the Lord told us, all right? So real quick, I want to go to the law real quick before we move on. All right, this is Leviticus 19 and 17. It says, "Thou shalt not hate thy brother in thine heart. Thou shalt in any wise rebuke thy neighbor and not suffer sin upon him. Thou shalt not avenge nor bear any grudge against the children of thy people, but thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. I am the Lord." All right, and what we see when you read both of those verses, context-wise, is that your neighbor is your kinsman, all right? Meaning your countryman, meaning your fellow tribe, your nation. All right, and the Lord told us what? To love our neighbor as we love ourselves. All right, and when you look at Esau, Edom, and what they're dealing with, it also takes me back to this quote that we kind of touched on at camp, all right, from President Lyndon B. Johnson. All right, and it says, "If you can convince the lowest white man he's better than the best colored man, he won't notice you're picking his pocket. Hell, give him somebody to look down on and he'll empty his pockets for you." And that's in a nutshell what you saw from that clip. The Lord brought this out first and foremost, all right? Everything really goes back to the Heavenly Father in the spiritual sense, in the scriptures and prophecy, all right? And we see what's happening in Babylon the Great, which is America. It's all according to prophecy. You have classism amongst these Edomites, where the poor Edomites are being robbed. But instead of them identifying that the rich Edomites are robbing them, the rich Edomites are blaming it on you Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. This is why these Edomites cheered when ICE came and took Northern Kingdom away, all right? Because a lot of them didn't even get deported. They're still in Alligator, Alcatraz, and certain places like that, so that they could make profit off of them for basically a modern version of slavery. But the point being is that they're pointing the finger and blaming you Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans to basically justify, all right, the fact that they're in a poor condition, all right? And the real reason that they're in a poor condition is because of classism, all right? Their own people are robbing them, all right? And this all goes back to the scriptures. So let's go back here, all right? Because again, whether people know it or not, whether people understand it or not, it all goes back to prophecy, All right, this is Isaiah 19:2. And it reads, I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians, and they shall fight everyone against his brother, and everyone against his neighbor, city against city, and kingdom against kingdom. All right, remember, Yahushua said that he was coming to bring division, all right? And we're watching a kingdom divided against itself. And as the scriptures say, that kingdom cannot stand. All right, real quick. Let me go here first. So let's get this. 2nd Ezra 15. All right, I'm going to jump down to verse 14. All right, and it reads, woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands. For there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power. All right, Charlie Kirk is a perfect example of this. You know, his assassination, if you want to call it that, was done by the hands of an Edomite who is a right-wing Edomite. They're both so-called conservatives. But what we see is a sedition amongst these Edomites. They're divided on the left and the right, and then they're divided rich and poor. All right, and all of this is a matter of prophecy. This is how we know we're at the end of this thing, because the Lord is dividing up this kingdom. All right, this is Matthew 12:25. And Yahushua knew their thoughts and said unto them, every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation, and every city or house divided against itself shall not stand. And if Satan cast out Satan, he is divided against himself. How shall then his kingdom stand? And what this guy brought up was the real root of the issue. All right, the real root of the issue is that poor Edomites are frustrated at their situation, and the rich Edomites that have taken the commonwealth for themselves are telling them that it's the Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans' fault. When you look at the numbers, it doesn't make sense. You know, if you look at the average median household income or wealth for Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, it hasn't changed. What has changed is the concentration of wealth. Whereas back in the 80s, even if you go further back during the baby boomers' time, there was a better distribution of the wealth amongst these Edomites. This is why they desire for Babylon the Great, which is America, to be made great again, because that was a time in their mind it was great when they shared the wealth. And instead of these rich Edomites sharing the wealth, what they're doing is they're pointing to you so-called minorities and telling poor Edomites who now live like you that it's your fault. Which is why when this Charlie Kirk situation happened, they immediately looked at you Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, and 6 HBCUs had to be shut down. Because that's the default mode of poor Edomites. Is to blame you Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. And that's because their rich brethren have told them to do so. All right, so what we see happening through the Spirit is all according to the Bible. All right, it's all according to prophecy. The scriptures talk about miserable are those cities that your sons had to serve. And now that everybody's been robbed and spoiled, the only people left to spoil is the robbers. All right, matter of fact, let's get that. Because eventually, all right, it's going to be sedition in Babylon the Great. Eventually, this is going to play out. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. All right. Let's get this in Job. This is Job chapter 20:22. And the fullness of his sufficiency, he shall be in straits. Every hand of the wicked shall come upon him. And when you look at this word, wicked, in Job 20:22, all right, this is what it really breaks down to. All right, it says Amal, and it says laborer, suffer, wretched one, labor, workmen. And a lot of these Edomites, these low-level Edomites, a lot of their frustration is their condition of living. You know, they're basically living next to the people that they were told they were better than. You know, and instead of them actually getting to the root of the issue, they're blaming you Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. And all of this goes back to prophecy. All right, and it's a beautiful time through the Spirit if you understand judgment. You know, but as the scriptures say, evil men understand not judgment. And for the most part, nobody really understands judgment outside of the elect. Lord willing, we be a part of that number. That's why there's no real schism, no real offense and confusion about what's going on in the earth today, because we understand this is long-awaited retribution and judgment. What goes around comes back around, and now it's coming back around through the Spirit and power of Yahweh Shema Shai. All right, so Lord willing, this was edifying. With that, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakah Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who are the elders of Yasha Allah, and the sincere salutations to all you Akim, who are preaching this word and believing this word.